the association between Soul Music Records and Cherry Red started in 2010. And how it began was that I had already been putting out some reissues with Soul Music Records with another company. I had done that for about 18 months. And at that point, it just seemed like that particular company, while they were great, were not really in a position to really expand the number of titles that I wanted to reissue. So just a slight background, you know, my background in music, in the music industry, has primarily been, I've been known as a music journalist, so working in the world of soul music for a very long time. And one of my, quote, missions has always been to share some of the great music that was part of my growing up, my teenage years, my 20s and 30s, and so on, which the music is what, you know, really fueled my life in many ways, and was also, you know, as I became a music journalist, what I was doing for a living is writing about these great artists. And I always felt like I wanted to share their music with as many people as possible. And with the creation of the compact discs, CDs, that gave me, back in the 80s, gave me an opportunity to, you know, be involved in reissuing a lot of the music from the 60s and 70s and now 80s that had not been heard, was not available digitally or on CD, and were many of the treasures that were part of my growing up. So that was the purpose of creating Soul Music Records. And and then I had a conversation with someone who said, well, you know, this company Cherry Red, check them out, the catalog company. I was like, all right. So I found out who I should speak to, which was the esteemed Mr. Adam Velasco. And I had a meeting with him in the previous offices of Cherry Red, which was in Chiswick, and was quite compact, shall we say. And, you know, we had a very friendly conversation. I explained to him about my background. And, you know, he basically, the only concern at the time was that there was another label, Big Break Records, which was also doing soul music, but kind of more in the dance realm. And he was concerned that we didn't like tread on each other's toes. And we didn't, which was good. And so my first, you know, so it took a few months of working things out, and I started working with another esteemed gentleman, Mr. Paul Robinson, who, you know, who was the person responsible for getting all the requests and approvals. And so that was the beginning. And we started our first release was actually in October 2010. And it was this, which is a collection of 2 albums by a group called M2May, who were known as a very funky, like kind of soul funk group. And these albums had not been available at that point on CD. So it was a big coup to be able to get them. And so that was that. And then after that, the next, I think, what issue? Oh, number 3 release turned out to be our, you know, first really bestseller, which was by the Dynamic Superiors. Again, these are not household names to most people, but in the soul music community, they're known. Admittedly, somewhat niche, but these are 2 albums by a group. So the big thing about this was it was a Motown release, and it was, you know, the idea of being able to license original albums from Motown was a really big deal, and this did really well. And here we are, 197 releases later. When all the dark clouds roll away. Well, when I first started working with Cherry Red, you know, the primary objective was releasing original albums that had not been on CD before. So the ones I just mentioned, Dynamic Superiors, M2May, and so on. So that was the main goal. Let's get these albums that have never been available digitally in any way on CD anywhere in the world. Let's get those out because there was a demand for them. So that was the original focus. And in the first few years, you know, we released original albums by quite a few like known names, Natalie Cole, who else was in the first? Nancy Wilson, jazz singer, jazz soul singer Nancy Wilson, Peebo Bryson. So in the first few years, that was the focus. Let's just get these albums available, make them available, and really to respond to a demand, because collectors throughout the world wanted these albums on CD. So that was the first part. And then as time went on, we did lots of original albums, a lot of 2-on-1s. We did a whole series of albums by the late George Duke, who's jazz, funk, soul. So we did a lot of his albums. We did albums with another great singer, songwriter, Tina Marie. So we kept going with that concept of original albums. And then I would say probably about maybe 5 years ago, I had a conversation with Adam, and I would talk to the Cherry Red team quite frequently, or be in touch with them, on a regular basis. And we thought, let's try some anthologies. So anthologies being, more like not just the kind of greatest hits, but 2 CD sets that kind of delve deeper into the catalogs of certain artists. And so we started doing that. And I've got to go check what the first one was. But what was great about that is there were certain artists whose CDs had been available generally. So we didn't want to keep reissuing the same things over and over again. So the idea of being able to anthologize them, which meant going into album cuts and so on, that really went well. And so we expanded that, and we did at least probably 24 of them. And they were, again, there were a lot of them were what we call marquee names in the world of soul music. So we did a couple of British artists. We did Ruby Turner, and we did, Jonathan Butler. I'm missing loads of people, Johnny Nash. So we went into a lot of different areas of soul music that we hadn't necessarily focused on before. And those series did well. Some did better than others, obviously. But as a series, they were well received. And then, as markets changed and conditions have changed in terms of, the buying public, what was suggested was that let's move into the area of doing box sets. And I was a little concerned initially because I thought that, is that going to kind of outprice, people are not going to want to spend the money, especially if the things have been available before. But then I was really, really happy to see how people responded. So we've been doing box sets, I think, since really last year, 2019 is where I think we began. And the few highlights, we had some really great highlights. We did one on the Emotions, Best of My Love group, Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes, which was, a major Philadelphia soul group, probably best known for the song If You Don't Know Me By Now, amongst other things. And so that's evolved. And now, we're doing these. I love these box sets. I love the artwork. I love the way they're put together. I just think that they really have elevated the label. It's really the Soul Music Records now is like moved up in terms of the kind of quality of work that we do, and just really being thorough, and it seems to be going well so far.
And it gives so much light.
I think the one during the course of these now almost 200 reissues, probably the one that was most intriguing and surprising in terms of response was an album that was recorded in 1977 as a result of a tour in America between Isaac Hayes, of course Isaac Hayes, known as a legendary songwriter, singer, producer, recording artist, performer, and Dionne Warwick, or as she's known in England, Dionne Warwick. Anyway, they did a tour together called A Man and a Woman. And at different times, over a certain period of time in certain of the concerts, they recorded. They recorded, it was intended for a live album. And it was never issued on CD. And the challenge was finding out who owned it, because it was split between two record companies. And I did some vault research and found out, to my thrill, that the tapes for A Man and a Woman were at Universal Music Group. So we were able to license that. And I'm not personally very fond of live albums. I think sometimes they don't, sometimes they're just not my favorite thing to listen to. However, having said that, I guess the surprise was that this really was an album that fans of both of those artists had really, really wanted. So the surprise was how well it was received, and it still remains, I think, one of our best sellers. So that was a surprise. And then, occasionally there's an album that's really kind of obscure, even in the world of soul music, that I kind of know from talking to people, collectors, to DJs who work in the soul music world, that there's an interest in. And there was this one album, a one-off album by a group from Philadelphia called Anglo-Saxon Brown. And the album's called Songs for Evolution. Probably something that would be appropriate these days too. And it's really a good album. And I didn't have many bonus tracks. I had one bonus track. And so I put it out, we put it out, and I wasn't sure, it's unusual to put out a one-off album by a group. And much to my surprise and delight, and to the delight of all concerned, it did really well. People were really happy that this kind of undiscovered gem had been rediscovered, so to speak. And so that was a nice surprise. And hopefully as we go forward, there will be some more gems like that. It's very hard when you're the person who's putting things together for reissue to choose favorites. And when I say favorites, I mean things that I would want to listen to if I wasn't working on them. That's my definition of favorite, is would I put this on if I had nothing to do with it? And so there are a few of those. It's hard to say one. So I think that the couple that really stand out for me is there's an album by a now deceased singer and wonderful, I consider R&B pioneer, by the name of Esther Phillips. And Esther Phillips recorded an album in 1972 called From a Whisper to a Scream. And even when it came out, I loved it. And it was a very, Esther's kind of an acquired taste vocally. She's not, she's got this kind of bluesy kind of voice, and, not everybody's cup of tea. However, having said that, that album did really well for her. And it's always been one of my favorite personal albums. So the opportunity to reissue it was really great. And I loved it. It did well. People responded well to it. So that's definitely one of my favorites. The other one, well, the few, I mean, I mentioned Dionne Warwick, from having, we've done a few of her reissues. We've done reissues on her over the years. She also had a sister, Dee Dee, who was never quite achieved the same kind of success. And she recorded 2 albums for Mercury Records in the 60s. And we were able to license those with additional bonus tracks. And I'd say that those are also amongst my favorites. There's an album called Dee Dee Warwick, I Want to Be With You, I'm Gonna Make You Lovely, / and the other one's called Foolish Fool. And those probably are amongst my favorites to just listen to. There's others, but those kind of come to mind right away. And now, of course, just as a postscript to say that, there are a couple of box sets that we've done this year, 2020, our 10th anniversary with Cherry Red. The Dionne comes up a lot because she actually was the artist who was my entry point into soul music back in 1964. So she's been a constant in my music life, in my personal life and my professional life. So we did a box set of her 12 albums on Arista. And I had a little concern about the price. I was like, oh, this is going to be too expensive. It's done really well. And so I really love that. And then one of our most recent releases, again, is Esther Phillips. And it's probably one of the things I'm most proud of, because I was able to access some unreleased material that was part of a live set, like actually 3 live sets that she did in Los Angeles in 1970. And I was able to reconstruct it, I loved it. And so that's one of my favorite, again, one of my absolute favorites is Esther Phillips, the box set, Brand New Day. So yeah.
And it is me.
Without giving away my age, well, I would have to give away my age. So in 10 years, I'll be an octogenarian, somebody who's in their 80s. So I don't know about the full 10 years at this point, not that I wouldn't want to be still doing this. I think that, things will change. Obviously, we know that the markets have changed. I think immediately, like on the horizon, is we have a couple of box sets coming out before the end of 2020, which of course will represent our 10th anniversary, as we said, and those are a box set of Carla Thomas, a very famous Stax artist known for several hits throughout the 60s. So that's coming out. And then we have a box set of one of my favorite people and artists, Evelyn Champagne King, who, dance music, R&B, really great performer. And so we're doing all of her RCA albums with her consent and working with her on that, So that's really exciting to me. And that's like perfect as our 197th reissue. And then beyond that, we got some things in the pipeline. So don't know what that will be yet. Obviously, I eagerly await what approvals we're going to get to put some more things out. And I think just the main thing for me for SoulMusic Records in the next few years is continuing to present the music in the kind of setting, like physical setting, like the deluxe box set idea that really honors the artist, and also, so that when people get when they buy the CD, when they get these box sets in the mail, which is presumably how most people get them these days, that they open it up and they go, wow, the booklet is beautiful, the music is great, and just it's really, for me, it's like honoring the legacy of these artists who've meant so much to me and to so many other people. So I would say, without getting into specifics, that's what we will continue to do in however many of the 10 years we continue to do CDs, because I don't know what point CDs will become like LPs did, where they disappear and reappear.
And I had nowhere to run.
I think the thing for me about SoulMusic Records is it's really about providing audiences, not just the people who already are familiar with these artists, but an expanded audience with music that they may not have heard. I mean, because the world that I've worked in is soul music. So of course, that's the genre that I'm interested in, people finding out more about these great artists who for whatever reason didn't always get the attention that some of their records deserve. I mean, it would be, for me, and I wouldn't see any point in doing reissues of albums by people who were mega, so to speak, because that's already been done and that wouldn't provide anything extra for people. So I think my mission, and the mission of SoulMusic Records, is to continue to present music that people either didn't hear the first time or did hear and want to hear again, and to present it in a way that it really honors the artists. So that's really the mission at this point. And I just want to say, that working with the Cherry Red team has been wonderful. I mean, really, really amazing to work with Adam and Paul and John and Dave Timperley and just and Matt Ingham. I mean, I don't want to miss anybody out, but all the people, Ricky, Ricky Martin, everyone just really has supported the Soul Music Records in becoming what it's become. And then no person can do this kind of work by themselves. So we've got a great team of Roger Williams, who's our art guy, designer, and he's just done amazing. He's done every single one of the 197 releases, and he's just great at what he does. So Roger, and then Nick Robbins, who does the mastering, has been doing mastering on a lot of our projects for the last few years. And so it's all like a team effort to make sure that the music is presented in the best possible way. I hope that other than the dedicated soul music fans, that some of these reissues reach people who may not be familiar with the music and of discovering it for the first time. That makes me really happy.
I see my freedom from across the way, and it comes right in on